now watching Chopping It Up with Roger Cador and Perry White.
Here we go. Good morning. Good morning. We are back chopping it up with Coach Roger Cador. Of course, I am Perry White, and he's the man, the myth, the legend himself, legendary former Southern University head baseball coach Roger Cador. Good morning, Coach.
Good morning, sir.
And my man on the board, Garrett Edgerson, getting us right this morning. Good morning to everybody out there that is watching. Coach, starting out a little low today. Coach, when last you hadn't probably talked that low in years.
I was only messing with you.
You know, we're going to jump right into today's show. First of all, how was your week and your weekend?
Everything was good. It was a little hot, but, that's part of Louisiana this time of year.
A little is an understatement. It was a lot of hot, if that's a word. You can't even use that. It was a lot of hot. Listen, I was at the pool with my son, and, man, the sun was beaming down on me. Yeah, you see me, I'm getting a little darker, man. I'm getting a little tan out there. But it's okay. That's just all what it's part about the summertime. Everybody just make sure you stay hydrated, of course. You make sure you get a Powerade by Coca-Cola right there and stay cool this summer. Blue Powerade is actually my favorite. What about you, G? You like that Blue Powerade?
Sometimes.
Coach, you drink Powerade?
Yes, sir.
Coach, being funny with me.
I drink a lot of water. More than the Powerade, I drink a lot of water. So
Powerade is good after a night of fun. Next day, you need that hydration to shake you back, dehydrated. Get you a little Powerade. Coach, let's jump right into today's show. The HBCU Swingman Classic, of course, the iconic King Griffey Jr. invites the best athletes from the HBCU arena to come and compete the Friday before the All-Star Game, MLB All-Star Game. And this game this year will be held up in Seattle at T-Mobile Park. HBCU Swingman Classic powered by MLB and as well as the MLBPA Youth Developmental Foundation. It's going to be an all-star game with baseball student athletes from Division I programs at HBCUs from across the nation. This year, they're going to select 50 HBCU baseball players to come and showcase on a national stage the talent to show what kind of talent is coming from the HBCU ranks. You are a major part of this. You are one of the ones to help create this dream into a reality. Talk to us about the Swingman Classic itself, the picking of the players, and how this whole thing is going to unfold.
Right. When we picked 50 players, all of the players are from Division I schools, 12 D1 schools in the SWAC and 5 from the MEAC. So that makes 17 schools, and each school will have at least one representative. Mm-hmm. I think Southern have 4 or 5. Grambling have the same thing in Alabama State. So those schools have more representative. But some schools like Arkansas, Pine Bluff only have one. This was something 3 years in the making. It was going to just be an HBCU All-Star game. Well, you keep throwing it around trying to perfect it because then you got to get the blessing of the NCAA. So by the time we got everything in order, one thing led to another. Was postponed 1 year, postponed the next. And then this happened. Ken Griffey Jr. got the commissioner, Rob Manfred, to come on board with what Tony Regan and I and Dale Matthews were trying to do. And he came on board and put this idea with the Swingman Classic, and it stuck with the commissioner. So that's how we got to Seattle. Next year we'll be in Arlington, Texas, and the following year we'll be in the ATL, Atlanta, Georgia, which I think then it really have a chance to catch fire because now you're getting in a population area where you have more African-American people can come and witness this. And
you're in the backyard of the MEAC and the SWAC, the SWAC and the MEAC.
That's right. So you're really getting close to everything. And the other caveat about this event, T-Mobile is going to give an NIL money to one kid who is they're going to give an award, the Character Award. Somebody who community service, good grade point average, team leader, does a lot of good things. And so we will get an NIL deal out of that for one lucky player. And it's going to be from the 50 kids who are in this game.
What do you think inspired Ken Griffey Jr. to want to reach back into this pool of players coming specifically out of the HBCU realm?
You know, Ken Griffey Jr.'s son plays football at FAMU. And there is a big push with MLB. You know, he works for the commissioner office. And there's a huge push to do something with HBCUs. And this was an opportunity for Ken Jr. to be involved in that. He have the swing master thing, and he'd say, let's throw it in there and make it. We could get some other sponsors, and that made everything work when he got on board, because now you got the big name behind the event. And that's what you need when you have any kind of event. You need a name behind it, sort of like a sponsor, and in this case, that's what he is, a sponsor. And then you got MLB, and it just snowballed. And the kids are going to get some wonderful things out of it, and it's going to be better for everybody after this.
You know what I think would be great? Will you be calling the game?
Not this year.
Oh, man, they got to get Roger Cador, because I enjoyed you doing the SWAC baseball tournament, the historical perspective and the IQ that you have of the game, and to be able to tell the stories of the schools that these kids represent. I think that would be great for you to be a part of it, because no one knows it at this point, for me, in my opinion, better than you, a guy who did this for 40 years, numerous SWAC championships, numerous Coach of the Years, and was the first to lead a HBCU to do something no other HBCU had done at that point, and that's winning a game in a regional. Not only that, beating the #1 Cal State Fullerton.
Well, you know, I think after this year, we'll be able to toss it around and talk about it. See, MLB is doing the game, so they want to bring their people in. You have to convince people, a big guy like MLB, to let someone else come in other than their people. Remember, they're comfortable with their people.
Yeah.
So that's part of the issue here. Harold Reynolds will be doing it, and I don't know who the other guy is. And I'm sure I'll be interviewed because, you know, I played an intricate part in having all of this work, making this thing work. It couldn't have worked without a lot of input, a lot of back and forth. But Tony Regan and I mean, that's, you know, we really, and Dale Matthews, get him in, who works for Tony. But it took a lot of us with time, and people don't know how difficult it is to make an event like this work.
Yeah.
It doesn't happen overnight. It took me 6 years to start the Urban Classic with Jimmy Lee Solomon before we were able to make it work. It's called the Andre Dawson Classic now. But it just takes time. Anytime you got MLB going to put their name on something, they're not going to jump and do it right away. They're going to make sure they can iron out all
players there, and to let people know that these schools, these athletes exist, and to try to help them propel. And then one thing about you, not only for them to propel to play MLB baseball, but you have guys that are coaches out there, you have guys that are umpires out there, you have guys that work in the business, and so many scouts. So there are a plethora of different arenas that these guys can go in, and it's just not in an arena of being a baseball player.
Well, you know, that was one of my goals when I first started coaching, is that I wanted to be a tree with branches, and that off of this tree, these branches produce fruit. And the fruit that they produced was, in the game of baseball, I wanted first scouts, which draft players. Now we got some people in the front office making business decisions on people. You see what I'm saying? Now we've got, you know, people are going into umpiring. But it's just amazing, the wonderful things that if you try to do things right and want to help people, you can do anything. This is a great
get overlooked. I think that'll be a integral part to sell what these institutions still provide today, and that's a great education and an opportunity to showcase talent for young people who obviously may not get that opportunity at other institutions around the country. And so for you to be on the forefront of that, man, I first say thank you for that, and then thank you to Ken Griffey Jr. to even see the opportunity to not walk past this, because a lot of people – sometimes opportunities, when you look at ideas, just don't sound flashy, especially if you're not directly related to it. But like you said, I didn't know his son played football at FAMU. That's some interesting facts right there.
Yeah, you know, And I was thinking about something else when Bud Selig had me on his advisory committee way back in 2013. I was on his advisory committee, and we started hatching some things there about what we were going to do with HBCUs. Because Bud Selig, before he retired, said, we've got to do something for the African-American kid. We have to, Major League Baseball have to do something. And we were, I mean, you had owners on this committee, presidents, vice presidents. Those are the people who were in the room, and I'm the only college coach there.
And I was going to ask you at the same time, especially with MLB being dominated by white males, how awkward was it to be talking about dealing with HBCUs and say do something for black folks in the room, not really showing black folks?
Well, they had a couple other black folks. Frank Robertson was on there, on that committee, but we had a couple of black folks in it. But you had the people who made decisions on black folks to get in baseball. Those were the people in there. You know, when you're talking about the owner with Tampa was in there, and you got the general manager, and you had presidents of teams. I mean, where I was, and I get to hear it all from the horse's mouth. You know, now I can't talk about a lot of things because we had to sign the consent form agreement, but you know, I got to hear everything, how Major League Baseball intend to make this thing work. They know it's not going to be an overnight job getting the best black kids back into baseball, because they knew that it wasn't overnight they lost them. So it's going to take time, and they got a 10, 20, 30, 40-year plan.
So I do this. I'm going to put a plug out there for MLB, and if you're watching anybody from MLB, especially when you got Coach Roger Cador, a guy who is a historian, he can tell you from every different type of decade and generation in terms of the SWAC HBCUs, but you also have myself and Garrett. I would love if we could do something in terms of all three of us, and this is what I was thinking about. When it comes to the HBCU Swingman All-Star game during the All-Star weekend, if they were to send us to some certain HBCUs for us to tell the stories of these certain HBCUs, and they have those features, you know, like College Game Day when you're watching and they're talking about this game and they go do a specific feature about a big name person from this institution that they highlight, and they talk about the institution. They give you a historical perspective that many may not have known. So I think when you talk about HBCUs, when you talk about these players, not only are you talking about the players in the HBCUs as they up to bat or making a big play, but doing a feature and allowing you to go into these schools and interview these greats. And there's still people that are alive that are greats that I think you could sit down with and have tremendous conversation with that could be a feature. And Garrett and I be right there and record and take this down. So MLB, if you listen, I'm just saying this is a new feature. We'll call it Sitting Down with Cador.
Call it what you want.
Whatever, but I just think why we have you, man, it is important when I talk about historical perspectives of archiving our history. And a lot of times what I realize, I can watch SEC Network all day, and when they go back and they finding old videos of whoever played back in the 60s, the 70s, the 50s, and then I go and I look in terms of HBCUs, and I'm trying to find something of somebody in the SWAC just from the early 2000s, and I can't barely find it. So we have to do a great job at archiving what we have, and what better way to do it than the people who lived it, the people who know the history. And you've been around as a player in this conference, and HBCUs, you've been around as a coach, and now you're at this point, you are the drum major, as sort of say. You're still leading the charge in order for people to understand why this is important, and still trying to open the door for the next generation.
And, you know, I'm so happy that I was able to leave coaching with so much more energy. Some people stay too long. You know, they stay way too long, and then they're dead by the time they finish coaching. But I feel like I just kicked in. I often think about Frank Robinson. In 1966, Cincinnati traded him to Baltimore and said he was all at 31 years old. And he goes in and he wins Triple Crown with Baltimore. And he became a greater player with Baltimore than he was with Cincinnati. So I often think about myself when I look back and say, you know, I had a good time. I left with a lot of energy. I've got things to do. Now, I may not be playing coaching baseball, but certainly I can tell the story. And
I would love to see, even with a coaching clinic with you, getting these guys in and getting opportunities to hear from the great legendary Roger Cador in terms of the lack of resources. How do you build a program, the necessary steps to get through the obstacles? Because you went, as the book say, against all odds, man. No better way than to hear from somebody who can tell you it wasn't given to you, it was worked hard for.
But the way I coach might not be a good thing for a lot of coaches because – you know, there is no book the way I coach.
Yeah.
I didn't coach by the book.
Mm-hmm.
But even though we played the game as close by the book as we could, but I did not coach by the book. I coached based upon individuals I had.
Mm-hmm.
If I had a guy that could do big things, let him do big things. If I had a guy who did little things and was valuable, I told him how important he was to do the little things that he did. That's how you build good organization. And that's why we were good for so many years, because we had an organization. And kids understood their roles within this organization.
Would you like to see the conference put more emphasis on baseball as a whole as well, the SWAC and the MAAC?
Yeah, but it takes money.
Yeah.
Now, it's going to take – let me tell you something that's taking place. I got to give the presidents – in New Orleans credit at Xavier, Dillard, and now Suno. I got to give them credit. And the president at Wiley College in Texas. The president in Wiley College, this is when I first heard it, told the coach came in and asked me, man, the president told me he wants me to bring in 80 kids. I said, yeah, that's not bad. But what am I do with those 80 kids? I said, let me tell you something. How much does it cost to go to school there? You put that times 80, and you just funded your program. That president knows what he's talking about. See, a lot of presidents ain't smart enough to understand how you make a program like a baseball work. You let the coach bring in as many people as they can. That way you get, if it's 16,000, you bring in 40 kids. You put that down, you do the math, you got me?
Mm-hmm.
You just funded your program.
Is that something that you used as a formula?
I did, and it took Greg LaFleur. Greg LaFleur had to explain to them when they were questioning why would Cador have so many players. Greg LaFleur said, he's bringing a lot of money to the university.
That's right.
He said he said, just think of the kids he brought in, Southern never going to get. But because he's out there recruiting, he's bringing in kids now. You got that money. See, but a lot of people refuse to look at the math. You have to understand the math. Kids.
What do you think people get lost, as they say, lost in the sauce when it comes to understanding outside of just the coaching perspective, but program building perspective? Sometimes it seems like they get lost. It's like you know one way, but you don't understand another way. It's one.
Like schools only think football is the only way to make money.
Mm-hmm.
That's what they think. That's what they've always known. So you have to show people the numbers. But you know, presidents who are successful usually get people who tell them the truth.
That's right.
Not yes men. And we have too many yes men because they're looking at, I'm going to keep my job.
I'm going to be a yes man right now because we got to take a break. So let's get ready to take a break. We'll come back on board and chop it up with Coach Cador. Of course, he's Roger Cador, Perry White, and my man on the board, Garrett Edgerton. We'll be right back.
Some Baton Rouge business travelers travel out of Baton Rouge. Some don't. The ones that do know BTR is all about being closer, more convenient, with non-stops and short hops to anywhere their business takes them. They also know not flying BTR means more traffic, longer lines, and wasted time. So if it's about going from driveway to runway with a lot less highway, isn't it about time you flew BTR? Baton Rouge Metro Airport. It's about time. Smart Baton Rouge business travelers travel out of Baton Rouge because BTR is so close and convenient, they're always one step ahead, rather than dead on their feet. So, isn't it about time you flew BTR? Baton Rouge Metro Airport.
Getting a letter from the IRS that you owe back taxes can be scary, but it doesn't have to be. Call Go Tax Resolution in Lafayette at 337-420-1040 today. We'll help stop garnishments, levies, and seizures immediately. With over 35 years of dealing directly with the IRS, our team of local professionals will help you pay the least amount possible. So if you owe back taxes to the IRS, you need help. Call the tax professionals at Go Tax Resolution in Lafayette.
Looking to get some keys made, locks rekeyed, or a wide variety of new and used safe? Then look no further than the trusted choice of Alfred Safe & Lock. Conveniently located off of Government Street in Mid-City, Baton Rouge. Trust the expert locksmith at Alfred for all of your residential, commercial, and industrial lock and safe needs. Trusted by Baton Rouge and me, Roger Cador, to protect what is yours since 1946.
Take your fun full throttle with a single touch. There are places to fly high, swing low, or make the old bell ring. Your targets are in sight. Better your game by playing ball of almost every variety. Need to catch your breath? There's a place for that too. Have a passion? We've got the place. Gear up for where the rubber meets the mud, or stir up memories of a lifetime. Reach new heights. Gravitate towards something out of this world. Even travel back in time. You might like a little drama in your life, or get in touch with your inner nature lover. Release some pent-up energy while you're at it. There's plenty to do beyond the swing sets. BRAC, we're more than a playground.
Hey, Coach Roger Cador here. There's something about teamwork that brings the best out in any business. When I need a tow, I call Roadrunner Towing. Roadrunner's 4 generations strong and homegrown right here in Baton Rouge.
Thanks, Coach. There's no job too large or too small. Call Roadrunner for quick, reliable, exceptional service. We don't want an arm and a leg. We just want your toes. And remember, take time each day to be a blessing to someone. Thank you.
With over 60 years of combined experience, Kathy Sherburne and Anna Barnett bring a wealth of knowledge and excitement to the framing industry. Keeping strong to the Louisiana culture, Acadian Frame and Art has numerous local artists and sports team memorabilia for their customers to choose from. Whether you're creating a gallery-like setting in your office or simply looking for some fun art for your kids' playroom, Acadian Frame and Art is your one-stop picture framing spot. Call 225-927-6129 or go to www.acadianframe.com.
Some Baton Rouge business travelers travel out of Baton Rouge. Some don't. The ones that do know BTR is all about being closer, more convenient, with non-stops and short hops to anywhere their business takes them. They also know not flying BTR means more traffic, longer lines, and wasted time. So if it's about going from driveway to runway with a lot less highway, isn't it about time you flew BTR? Baton Rouge Metro Airport. It's about time.
All right, we're back with more Chopping It Up with Coach Roger Cador. Of course, I'm Perry White. He's the man, the myth, the legend himself. Roger Cador, my man on the board, is Garrett Edgerson. Coach, let's jump right into it for this second segment. College Baseball World Series. You're looking at what's going on Friday. This thing jumped off. Oral Roberts, TCU, Florida versus Virginia. Oral Roberts, TCU. TCU, you and I talked about last week, was a hot team, but they got cooled off against a team, Oral Roberts, 6-5. And then you look at Florida and Virginia. Florida was a hot team. Did you watch this game, Florida and Virginia? Virginia was up going into the ninth inning. Florida comes back off a walk-off and wins this game 6-5, one of the most exciting games I saw to start off the College Baseball World Series.
If that coach was black, he would have been fired, the coach from Virginia. How could you make that bonehead? Listen, you got to go to your bullpen.
Yeah.
You know, you've given up this pitcher. Why let the guy stay in there until he loads the bases with 1 out? Then you go in and you use your bullpen. Might as well let him stay there.
Yeah, and then you put the loss on the next guy.
Yes, yeah.
And that was a tough spot.
You put the pressure on the next guy. I thought that the guy was struggling when he gave up the 2 home runs.
Yeah.
I thought because the next hitter, he ended up walking, I think, was a right-hand hitter. So he should have gone to his bullpen to bring in the right-hand pitcher.
What you would have done with that first home run in that ninth inning?
Well, I might have, they were both right-hand hitters.
Yeah.
He knows something we don't know, obviously. But, I would have probably gone to my right-hand pitcher.
Yeah.
You got him back there throwing. He must be a reason.
Yeah.
He's a dual athlete, a football, baseball player.
Then you go to Saturday. Wake Forest, the number 1 team in the nation pretty much all season, takes on Stanford. Stanford is typically a pretty good baseball team. Wake Forest gets the victory 3-2. And then LSU, of course. Everybody's been talking about how the Tigers have gone up to Omaha, Nebraska, and have taken over. And if you want to find out how to have a good time, bring some people from Baton Rouge around a sporting event, put some alcohol and put some food and watch them show you a good time. LSU against an SEC foe in Tennessee. LSU gets it done 6-3. LSU's pitcher is Paul Skeens. Man, one of the best in the nation.
Well, he looked really good Friday and Saturday.
Mm-hmm.
Saturday night, he looked pretty damn good.
12 Ks.
Yeah, and he threw the ball consistently in the strike zone. He was throwing 100, 99 to 100 too, but it was around the strike zone. So he showed a lot of good stuff. LSU played well. I sort of feel sorry for that young freshman, Guidry from Lake Charles.
Mm-hmm.
He comes in and throws one pitch and gets it hit out of the park for a 2-run home run and then gets pulled. That's not good for anybody's ego.
No.
Especially a freshman. So they have to be careful with Guidry and make sure that he gets a lot of love to make him understand, hey, things like this happen. We'll give you the ball again. You got me?
Sunday, Father's Day yesterday, and happy belated Father's Day to everybody that's watching and paying attention if you're a father. TCU and Virginia in the elimination game. Virginia finds a way to lose it. TCU gets it. 4-3, TCU stays around. Virginia goes home. And then Florida and Oral Roberts. Florida gets the victory over Oral Roberts. Now Oral Roberts is in the elimination game, but Oral Roberts is a program I think that is shocking a lot of people in the College World Series.
I tell you what, the Florida coach did a boo-boo too. How could you have that kind of boo-boo in the World Series when you got all kind of staff? He went to the mound more than he should have.
Mm-hmm.
There's a limit you can make before you have to pull a guy.
Mm-hmm.
Normally, coaches ask umpire, how many do I have before he crosses that line? He didn't do that. And he ended up having to take out his closer with nobody warming out in the bullpen.
Mm.
And he was lucky this freshman, goes to show you, Florida freshman pulled him out. He was sweating bullets, the coach from Florida, because he knows Sullivan, if he lose that game, he's going to be ridiculed.
And it was all for his lack of understanding.
Lack of preparation.
Yeah.
And I blame his coaches too. The coaches there got to help the head coach out.
Yeah.
They have to remind him. I always have guys, tell me what's going on. You don't know everything in the heat of the game. You forget things.
Sometimes can the moment be so big, especially with a platform like the College Baseball World Series, where they say sometimes the bright lights can make you miss out on the small things?
Exactly. Even though Sullivan been doing it 13 to 15 years and he's won a national championship, things happen. You need reminders. You need coaches pulling your shirt tail, telling you when you're about to make a decision, telling you about information.
Today, Monday, elimination game. Tennessee-Stanford should be a good one. Tennessee has been a team that has been pretty good all season, Stanford as well. But I think the game that I have been waiting to see for a very, very long time is going to happen tonight, at 6 o'clock. Wake Forest versus LSU. Wake Forest seemed like a team that just cannot be beat. You have to play baseball. You not just can't come in there and play ball. You have to play baseball against Wake Forest. But you look at LSU, they can hit really well. You're talking about Tommy White and the rest of those guys and have some of the best pitching. But Wake Forest, man, is a really good baseball team. They've been the number 1 team pretty much the entire season. But this is a matchup when you talk about top 5 programs in the nation, LSU, Wake Forest.
Tom Waters from Wake Forest is a really good coach. Used to coach at UNO in New Orleans. Actually, they interviewed me for the job after he left.
Mm-hmm.
And I wanted to tell a story about Tom.
Mm-hmm.
Tom gave a kidney to one of his players.
Really?
Yeah, he had a kid from Columbus, Georgia, real sick, and and he was a brother. And Thomas gave a kidney up to save that young man's life. What a hell of a coach Tom is.
That's right.
Well, as a hell of a person, because it wasn't his coaching that did it. It was his heart that helped him to do that.
You look at LSU who can hit. You look at Wake Forest that can play no matter what around on the diamond on you. What do you see in this ball game with this? Because I think this is the biggest game there has been in quite some time when you look at the momentum LSU's bringing in, but you just look at the sheer power that Wake Forest has all around.
Well, philosophy is that good pitching stop good hitting, okay? So Wake Forest obviously has got the better pitching for game 2 than LSU have proven during the course of a year.
Mm-hmm.
We don't know what's going to happen tonight, but pitching usually stop hitting. And even though the park is playing a little bigger now, who is to say that the wind won't be blowing tonight and the park start playing big again?
Mm-hmm.
So if that happens, Wake Forest has the advantage.
This should be an exciting game. I'm looking forward to it. And then tomorrow, of course, TCU or Roberts in that elimination game, or Roberts being a team that I can remember them having a pretty good basketball team some years back, but now to make it to the College Baseball World Series, it seems like every now and again you get a team like a Oral Roberts. You saw Coastal Carolina who won the whole thing a few years back. But for a program like Oral Roberts to get this far amongst what they say the blue bloods, the big boys, what does it take for a program like that to go in and say, hey, we can compete with you as well?
To be a blue blood, you have to be a big boy?
Yeah, you do. Because to be a blue blood means your name is in the mix every year. It's just like basketball. When you think about the NCAA tournament, March Madness, you think about Duke, Kentucky, Kansas, just to name a few. And so those are your blue bloods. And so without those teams, you're like, well, what's going on? And so when you look at now with the NCAA in terms of college baseball, the SEC has pretty much been your blue bloods. Plus now you throw in Stanford. Texas perennially has been a blue blood when you talk about baseball. So Oral Roberts is not a team you talk about consistently in college baseball.
I thought blue blood existed from Europe where they call themselves blue bloods. That's what I wanted to make sure we get that straight.
Yeah, that's right, Coach. We do the blue bloods in this too as well.
Okay, yeah, well, no, they haven't been considered blue blood. And it's baseball is the one sport, the one sport that allowed the little guys who are not blue bloods to go in and make some noise. And Oral Roberts is that team this year. So I agree with you. All it takes is a couple of good arms and some timely hitting, which they've done quite well. And TCU is going to be a team we need to watch.
Yeah.
I like TCU.
TCU can hit the ball well. They have some power hitters. I know against my Razorbacks, Arkansas, they had a player hit 3 home runs, 2 are grand slams. Just something you just don't hear of. 3 home runs with 2 grand slams. You ever heard of that before?
Yes.
Really?
I did it.
I should have known the legendary.
In Asheville, North Carolina.
Give me a walk down memory lane. Talk to me about it.
1975, we were playing Baltimore Orioles. Eddie Murray was on that team, and I hit 2 grand slams.
Really?
Yes.
You knocked them things way out the park?
They went out the park.
That's a legendary story right there. I didn't know, Coach. I find out that you know he used to be a used car salesman, and now he's hit 2 grand slams.
I would not fool the people to get them to give me the money. That's what a lot of
I don't think you will fool them, but I think your message in terms of life, in terms of teaching, in terms of being a better person, I think you will have a good message because at the end of the day, man, the grind, and not only that, people don't like when things are different when people. They want you to be the same, fall in line as everybody else. We're different. And when I say we're different, we don't follow a structure or this, it has to be this way. We find our own way. And as we find our own way, we build our own road along that way. And then we go back and we pull other people along that road with us to help them out. To say, hey, doesn't have to be this one way everybody's trying to lead you down this path. It could be your own way. But listen to me and let me tell you from experience how I can help you. And I think that's what you're great at, what made you such success as a coach.
Hey, man, you're pretty good.
I'm trying.
There's a reason you're sitting in that chair.
Hey, and this chair is comfortable too, man. I enjoy being able to have these conversations. All right, let's get ready to take a break. And we'll come back and we'll get ready to talk about more with the legendary guy himself, Roger Cador. I'm Perry White, my man on the board, Garrett Edgerson. All right?
Some Baton Rouge business travelers travel out of Baton Rouge. Some don't. The ones that do know BTR is all about being closer, more convenient, with non-stops and short hops to anywhere their business takes them. They also know not flying BTR means more traffic, longer lines, and wasted time. So if it's about going from driveway to runway with a lot less highway, isn't it about time you flew BTR? Baton Rouge Metro Airport. It's about time. Smart Baton Rouge business travelers travel out of Baton Rouge because BTR is so close and convenient, they're always one step ahead, rather than dead on their feet. So, isn't it about time you flew BTR? Baton Rouge Metro Airport.
Getting a letter from the IRS that you owe back taxes can be scary, but it doesn't have to be. Call Go Tax Resolution in Lafayette at 337-420-1040 today. We'll help stop garnishments, levies, and seizures immediately. With over 35 years of dealing directly with the IRS, our team of local professionals will help you pay the least amount possible. So if you owe back taxes to the IRS, you need help. Call the tax professionals at Go Tax Resolution in Lafayette at 337-420-1040. Your go-to tax relief.
Looking to get some keys made, locks rekeyed, or a wide variety of new and used safe? Then look no further than the trusted choice of Alfred Safe and Lock. Conveniently located off of Government Street in Mid-City, Baton Rouge. Trust the expert locksmith at Alfred for all of your residential, commercial, and industrial lock and safe needs. Trusted by Baton Rouge and me, Roger Cador, to protect what is yours since 1946.
Take your fun full throttle with a single touch. There are places to fly high, swing low, or make the old bell ring. Your targets are in sight. Better your game by playing ball of almost every variety. Need to catch your breath? There's a place for that. Have a passion? We've got the place. Gear up for where the rubber meets the mud, or stir up memories of a lifetime. Reach new heights. Gravitate towards something out of this world. Even travel back in time. You might like a little drama in your life, or get in touch with your inner nature lover. Release some pent-up energy while you're at it. There's plenty to do beyond the swing sets. BRAC, we're more than a playground.
Hey, Coach Roger Cador here. There's something about teamwork that brings the best out in any business. When I need a tow, I call Roadrunner Towing. Roadrunner's 4 generations strong and homegrown right here in Baton Rouge.
Thanks, Coach. There's no job too large or too small. Call Roadrunner for, and remember.
With over 60 years of combined experience, Kathy Sherburne and Anna Barnett bring a wealth of knowledge and excitement to the framing industry. Keeping strong to the Louisiana culture, Acadian Frame and Art has numerous local artists and sports team memorabilia for their customers to choose from. Whether you're creating a gallery-like setting in your office or simply looking for some fun art for your kids' playroom, Acadian Frame and Art is your one-stop picture framing spot. Call 225-927-6129 or go to www.acadianframe.com.
Some Baton Rouge business travelers travel out of Baton Rouge. Some don't. The ones that do know BTR is all about being closer, more convenient, with non-stops and short hops to anywhere their business takes them. They also know not flying BTR means more traffic, longer lines, and wasted time. So if it's about going from driveway to runway with a lot less highway, isn't it about time you flew BTR? Baton Rouge Metro Airport. It's about time.
All right, we're back. More chopping it up with Coach Roger Cador. Of course, he's Roger Cador. I'm Perry White, my man on the board, Garrett Edgerson. And if you hear my voice, hit that subscribe button right there underneath this video. Subscribe, get that notification every time we go live, which is each and every Monday. Now, next Monday, Coach and I will not be in the building. We're going to take next Monday off, but we'll try to keep this thing going. So that'll give you an opportunity to go back and watch some of those past shows that we've done, interviews and everything else as we continue to keep this rolling. Coach, we've had a good show so far, but this past weekend was Juneteenth, of course. Today's date is June 19th. A lot of people celebrated it over the weekend. And the significance of it, when you talk about Juneteenth, the origins date back to June 19, 1865, when Major General Gordon Granger, a U.S. Army officer and Union general during the Civil War, issued an order in Galveston, Texas, announcing that all slaves were free under the Emancipation Proclamation. And as of June 17, 2021, it became a federal holiday because President Joe Biden signed legislation making Juneteenth a U.S. federal holiday after Congress passed the Juneteenth National Independence Day Act that same month.
Wow. But you know the history of Juneteenth is that it was a whole year. The slaves in Texas worked because the people wouldn't tell them they were free.
Mm-hmm.
And back then you had to send the people down to Galveston to get the free the poor slaves. It's just terrible. Some of the tragedy that black folks had to go through dealing with crazy people.
Yeah. My mom and I always talk about this all the time, especially just being black in America, and you can speak on it as well because you from an era where you saw it from a different perspective. But just being black in America and sometimes just being counted out before even given a chance.
Say that again?
Being black in America, having to work 10 times, 20 times harder, and just being counted out before even given a chance.
Yeah, you know, you're not even considered, even though you worked as hard. 20 times harder, you're not even considered. So it's just unfortunate the disservice they did to the country, because just think how far along the country would have been had they done the right thing. All the inventors, the creativity that black people brought to the table. This country could have been really a great country.
You know, one of the biggest issues I have, especially when I look at white folks who sometimes want to use the white supremacy and prejudice, is they look at us today as African Americans and expect for us to just at a snap of a finger be at the same point in time and place when you talk about wealth building, community building as them, although not realizing, well, I won't say not realizing, they realize it, but not holding themselves accountable of all of the hurdles that they put in place. You're talking about the Jim Crow laws, you talk about segregation, you talk about the voter rights, all of these things that they have put in place for us to not be successful. But success, I don't put in a place of making a excuse, because if you want it, you will go get it. But for a vast majority, when you just talk about the basic necessities, the basic resources, there's a huge difference. And especially when you talk about being, what's the word I'm looking for, being exposed. They have an opportunity and a jump start, especially when you look at the kids, what their kids are being exposed to compared to a lot of our communities. I just think it's a horrible idea to think that just because we in 2023, you think it's a snap of a finger that we should be at the same place as them. When you talk,
for years they were ahead. They had a head running start, and it's no way we're going to be able to catch up. And I hear them talk about, doesn't matter what happened now. It just doesn't happen overnight.
It does not.
You know, and black folks aren't lazy, contrary to popular belief. They aren't lazy. They just need opportunity. Now, the young people today won't do median jobs. They want meaningful jobs to have meaningful opportunities. So don't characterize people who as lazy who helped build this country.
That's right. And you also look at the same time education. You look at in our schools, there's a reason why they call them inner city schools. Because when you look at inner city schools, and because you hear that, what's typically missing? The resources. The teachers aren't getting paid. The funding isn't quite there. They're cutting the programs that typically help our students. Our students love athletic events, not only with the academic side, but you look at the fine arts, things like band and other things that typically give kids other outlets to get out of there. Music scholarships go a long way. Art scholarships, athletic scholarships, these are things outside of the realm of just the world of academia that give people out of our communities opportunities that sometimes get taken away from because of the slashing in funding.
When they went in, and it was an effort to take care of industrial arts out of the schools, where kids could learn to be pipe fitters, carpenters,
That's
electricians. Right. They took that out of the schools, and they killed us. That was another way of killing the black kids or minority kids, because those are really high-paying jobs now. these are jobs that are needed.
And in our community, these are jobs where the community has basically made it seem like, oh, man, you trying to be in our minds, we think the plumber is the man with his butt crack showing, this fat, oversized guy, It's like, I don't want to be no plumber. You thinking about a carpenter, some old guy with some overalls on. I'm not, but I sat in on a meeting, this was about 3 years ago, and in the white community at their schools, they were bringing back programs just like you're talking about, the electrician, the HVAC, the plumbing, the welding, all of this, putting it into schools for the high schoolers. So when they get out, guess what? They're certified and they have credits to get an associate's degree. They are already going out as an 18, 19-year-old world, 18 and 19-year-old in the world with a leg up, and they teaching them entrepreneurship. You can go out with these things and start your own business and then hire your brothers and your uncles and everybody else.
Everybody don't want to go to college. We don't need any more people in business and lawyers. We need plumbers, welders, electricians. Those are things that are so and this is why the people who are trying to come into the United States on the southern border, they'll do those jobs.
Oh, yeah.
And you trying to keep them out? How are we going to build America? How are we going to MAGA? How are we going to make America great again?
Mm-hmm.
If we don't, you got to, either you're going to have to take it back to the schools in the inner city or let the people at the southern borders do the jobs.
Mm-hmm.
It ain't going to be, it's one way or the other.
Yeah, and it's tough when you just talk about continuously been. And one thing I will say, you start to see the uptick of black folks moving around because you can tell when white folks get ready to move out and go somewhere else. We obviously coming up because we getting into those suburbs, and they say, well, you getting into the suburb, we'll go back into the city, and that's when you get the gentrification in a lot of cities because black folks are now being able to get the jobs. They're moving their kids to better school districts. They're moving to safer neighborhoods. And you start to see it, then the white people say, you know what, well, if they getting in with us, we're going to go back and we're going to take back what they had and push them out. Gentrification, you're seeing it all across the nation.
In place, 10 years down the road, the planning, you got to be able to be a part of the meeting.
That's it. You know something because my mom talks to me all the time. She said, what you see today was planned 20 years ago.
Oh, yeah.
You got to be there because this just did nothing that happened overnight. There was a backdoor meeting somewhere 20 years ago where they already had a vision for you, and you don't even know it.
I'm telling you, I've been in those meetings. I know.
Yeah. Well, that's what I think we have to do better as a community, too. We have to be able to get meetings together for our communities to plan 20 years instead of being just reacting in the moment. I think all we do is plan for the next month, the next year, the next day. We have to already be 5-10 years ahead if we want to be able to change the curve and increase. These go across town, we start to give up our own wealth and our own businesses of what we had. No better place to see that than in Scotlandville by Southern. There used to be a thriving African-American community with businesses all over the place. But now you look at it today, it is a dying crumble of a neighborhood, especially nothing economic. There's a reason why they had the North Baton Rouge Economic Development trying to get it to go and get people.
But it's going to be a while.
Yeah.
It's going to be a while because there is still the prevailing, ain't that many people in North Baton Rouge. Now, maybe you go down the Airline Highway, the Florida Boulevard, over Sharp Lane and over, but not in the real North Baton Rouge.
Yeah.
The way we know it, you got me?
Mm-hmm.
Ain't much crime. They're all dead or in jail.
What you say, G said?
I mean,
yeah.
That's really the ones who have done the problem. They're all dead or in jail.
And that's something I think I want to change, especially in our community, which made me choose political science as a major, to understand why was the laws, the ordinance, and the policies a certain type of way in my community. Why did my community look this way? Why did the other side of town, they have the one that doesn't swing? It was just certain things that I wanted to better understand that I just thought when it comes to politics, we miss so much. Everybody wants to get out and vote for the president, right? But when you talk about the regular elections for your city councilman, your school board, your mayors, your aldermen, those tend to be the ones that we miss out. But those are the most important elections because those direct your communities the most, not the president.
I agree with you, sir.
Yeah. So, get the people back involved and to get community awareness. We got to get community awareness, and we got to get folks out to understand the importance of voting. It can change your community. Tax dollars, bringing jobs in and staying in your communities and building your property value up can change your community. It could put the money into the schools and so much more, but we have to understand that. And so when you talk about the freedom of slaves, we talk about Juneteenth, all that circles back around just to realize that we still got a long way to go as a community, but nonetheless, we can't give up. We got to continue to strive. We got to continue to push because there is light at the end of the tunnel, and there is light for us because we've overcome, just like your book said, against so many odds. We have overcome and come a long way and still going, just like you did coming from rural, small-town Louisiana. Now, big-time name Roger Cador sitting in the room with the owners and the general managers and everybody else when you look at in MLB and the rest of the world.
Well, you said a mouthful there, son.
All right. Get over there laughing.
He said a mouthful.
All right.
It's not where you're coming from, it's where you're going.
That's good. But you got to know where you come from, to know where you're going.
Yeah.
All right, we reached the end of another episode. I hope you guys enjoyed it. All right, I'm Perry White. Of course, he's Roger Cador, my man on the board, Garrett Edgerson. We make a great team, and I thank you guys for tuning in. If you're watching it live or you're going back, shout out to Edwin Moore. Man, we always appreciate the support. He shares the show. He likes it. I'm sure he's a subscriber. He also sends me messages about all types of things. So we could always thank you, man, for your support and everybody else that's out there. Be sure to hit the subscribe button, subscribe to the show. Help us get our subscribers up and like the show as well. And we'll be back, not next week as we'll take a break, but we'll see you here in the future in the next couple weeks. All right, so we'll be back.